Hi everyone and welcome to the Power Platform Show. Today I have Wim from VeriPark, and we're going to talk about his journey from traveling from being a system integrator to one of the most successful ISVs currently operating in the industry, particularly of course in the financial or banking sector. Full show notes for this episode can be found at nz365guy.com/222. Now let's get on with the show. Hi Wim, welcome to the Power Platform Show.
Hi, nice to have me.
Yeah, so good to have you on here. Tell us, what part of the world do you hail from?
I'm based in Brussels, which is in Belgium, which is quite famous based on the COVID results we had.
Oh, tell us. I didn't realize. What's the story with COVID there?
Well, we are a very small country with 11 million people, and we had nearly 10,000 people who died from COVID. So that put us in the top countries in the world.
Wow, I did not realize.
Yeah.
Incredible. It's funny because it's not funny, but in New Zealand, we've gone a good period of time now, maybe a month with no deaths and no spread of the virus out in the community whatsoever. It's in some quarantine centers. And so we think that life is almost returning to normal. And then, you see around the world, like your situation there, just incredible.
Yeah.
Are you still in quarantine or anything like that?
No, but I think the curve went down a lot, but now it's holiday season again. So people try to catch a plane, travel abroad, and then everybody is getting nervous if they come back with, again, a virus that they picked up in whatever country. Yeah, we're all afraid to go to the second wave.
I bet. Tell me a bit about your family, what it's like living in Brussels, and what do you do when you're not working?
Okay. So I'm living in Londerzeel, which is a small city between the farmers. So if I'm not in a plane traveling across the world, then I'm staying here. And I must say the last 3 months I worked from home. So I have a wife and 2 kids, and they're both still studying at the university. So it's my age. You can now focus on business more because, you don't have to worry too much about the kids anymore.
Yeah, I bet. So what's your current role?
My role, so I'm a managing director of VeriPark for the European side. So VeriPark as an ISV working together with Microsoft.
Right. Okay. So how did you get to this position?
That's a long story. In fact, by accident, I probably betted on something that became something big because in 2003, when Microsoft came out with CRM 1.0 in the US, I was the first in Europe who jumped on it and got certified on it.
Wow.
And then we started implementing 1.2, 3.0, 4.0, etc. So I was always in this Microsoft CRM business application stuff from a long time ago till these days.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the beginning, I created my own company. It was an integration company. So we implemented CRM out of the box. And then we started to realize that out of the box is not good enough. So we started to build industry templates. We started to build kind of an ISV solution, but not too much scalable. Yeah, that's how the whole thing started a long time ago.
And so, as such, you started out as a system integrator, I take it, and then I always think when I think of VeriPark now, they're more of a ISV. Where do you sit kind of on that spectrum with your Microsoft relationship?
Yeah, so VeriPark goes back to 1998. So we are now 22 years in this company with VeriPark. But it was only in 2011 that we decided to switch from a value-added reseller to an ISV. So only then we started to package our own IP and to start selling it. And now we became a global ISV, mainly making profits on the sales that we do of our own IP on top of Microsoft stack.
I've seen a lot of value-added resellers or system integrators that have started to build IP over time, maybe in a particular industry, but they often struggle with transitioning from being, somebody that does big projects over a long period of time for one customer and then move on. Based on your experience, how do they transition from that into an IP company that, generates IP and sells it as package software as such?
Well, it's a decision at a certain moment you need to make that you package up IP. It can start with just libraries and reusable codes so that you start reusing and project the same code over and over again up to the moment where you say, now we have for this industry a specific solution that is bundling all this IP together, and then you define a product manager internally and you have a roadmap and you have releases, and you don't give away the source codes to the project team. And then the fun is really starting, because then of course they want to change the products, but then you call this a change request for the release calendar, and then you start building a real solution with releases and with price tables and everything on top of it.
So you raised an interesting thing there about the project team then wanting to change it. How, and what I've seen, in my career in this space is that let's say you create a vertical solution, it's an IP package product, and you sell it to a customer, and then that customer comes along and goes, I want to add this new entity, or I want to add this functionality, and they start building on top of what you had built. And then, of course, you come out with a new update, and there's the potential risk of breaking what has been built so far, or that your update's going to unstitch what they've done. How do you handle that kind of intricate balance?
Well, depends in which part of the Microsoft solutions this happens. If it's happening in CRM and if you use the right way, the solution layers of Microsoft, and you protect the layers and you don't give away the source code to the project teams, then it's kind of working quite well. Especially the last years, Microsoft is better in this backwards compatibility. So the last years, this is going quite well. I must say, a long time ago when there was CRM 4 and 2011, 2013, etc., it was not that easy. And especially because, some APIs were no longer supported, and then you had to rebuild a lot of parts of the IP, and then to migrate the code with the project code was a challenge.
Yeah, I bet. As part of that journey, how did you go from a revenue model that would have been around consultants billing time for money around projects to really having to invest upfront in research and development of your solution, developing your IP, and then probably, if I'm guessing right, you'd need a volume sale, like you'd need many implementations of your IP to be sold, which is quite different. It's a different sales model. It's a different go-to-market model. How did your business transition through that period of going, if you like, downplaying the SI or the value-added reseller income stream with a focus on the IP stream?
Well, there are different elements in that answer. So first of all, we still do services because of the nature of the projects we do and the business we are in. We are implementing solutions for financial services, so for banks and insurance companies. And these are complex animals, complex big projects that we cannot just ask another partner that signs a partnership agreement with VeryPark, just say, good luck, here is the software, and next finish, and it will work. No, it will not work like that. So there is still this revenue stream on services, but that's not our focus. So the goal is to focus on the IP sales. And so another element in the equation is the fact that we went from on-premise now to cloud, and with that came along the subscription model. So instead of selling a one-off license fee and then just support, we have now a recurring revenue stream of subscription licenses of a few million, and with that you have a guarantee that you can invest in R&D and that you can keep a big team that does what needs to be done, meaning upgrading, supporting the releases, adding new functions, features and functions, using the new possibilities from the Power Platform, etc. But so it's true that you invest in building a product, but we never invested in a product without having a customer behind it, telling us what to do and testing it and giving feedback to us. So Finally, we had something like 50 big banks using our solution, and that made it what it was a few years ago already, that you have a database structure that is accepted by everybody as the common data model, which is one of the big elements in a solution, is the database behind it. And then on top of it, you have all the processes and the customer journeys that you implement on it.
Mm-hmm. So just give me some context. At VeryPark, what are the main items of software you sell, and what industries do they serve?
So we only do Microsoft Business. So first of all, that's our prime supplier, let's say. On top of that, we use the three cloud solutions from Microsoft. So it's going from Azure to Dynamics clouds, and then of course to Office. Our focus is on Dynamics, but we use the three clouds in projects, in most of the projects these days. And from Dynamics, we focused on customer engagement, so the CRM side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we sell it only in one specific industry, which is the financial services, so banks, and that can be retail banks, wealth management, corporate banking, and insurance.
Okay, and what does it cover? Like, banking is a broad area. I actually worked in a bank for 18 months. Does it handle, day-to-day transaction accounts, mortgages, or is it the customer relationship side of understanding, is it back-end banking or core banking? What are the key workloads it does within the banking sector?
Yeah, so we deliver products that are in the front end. So meaning what end users experience. So we do not do core banking, but we integrate with core banking systems with standard connectors, because without data on the front end, you cannot do anything. And then we have different channels that we support. So our CRM channel, so for the people working in the branch, for example, they can use our solution to do everything that a branch agent is doing, a teller, a seller, an advisor. So we do digital branches, connecting the vaults, the cashier, recycler, etc. Then for the end user, we have an omni-channel solution. So we build mobile banking, internet banking. So whatever screen or interface an end user, the customer of the bank, let's say, is using, we have a solution for that. Can be branchless banking, digital banking, ATM screens, and all these, of course, are connected to the same platform, and that platform brings more solutions like channel as a service is now a digital bank as a service that we put on Azure, so that a bank that has core banking but not yet mobile banking, for example, they can just implement this in 30 days.
Wow.
We have VeryLoan, which is a loan origination for personal loans, auto loans, but also for corporate loan origination. We have a lot of solutions for KYC, onboarding of new customers with the newest digital ways of doing onboarding. So without physical visits or physical signatures, everything can be done through a remote session, like a video onboarding. We do, for example, speech banking, where you just talk to device and it recognizes your voice and it will ask you what to do. And so it's a lot of fancy stuff. We use machine learning, for example, for calculating the best next offer, the next best action. And all of these things we then combine in all the channels. So you can have a bot, a chat bot, where you can have just you can talk to Amazon and say, Amazon, open my bank account, how much is on my bank account? And then Amazon will also come with a new marketing campaign, which is in CRM, which is available for you as a person. So then Amazon will propose, I saw that you were looking for a loan, because we also have a connectivity to Adobe, for example, so we know what websites you click on. And then Amazon will propose you, like, do you want a personal loan for this amount? You're eligible, and this will be the condition. Do you want me to fix a meeting with the bank? Which branch do you want to, etc. So
incredible. It sounds very advanced.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes we are a bit too early on the market and we have to create a bit the market, but technology has no limits for us. And that's the fun part.
How much did GDPR, when it came out, affect the way you were doing business or changes that you needed to make to the technology?
Not so much, because we are a global company and GDPR is mainly based in Europe, let's say, or for customers that have European customers should also apply it. But not so much, since we have, as an industry, the banking business, we already had to be compliant in many ways. So for payments business, you need to pass a lot of certifications. So our software was already tested. We do penetration tests. We do PCI DSS certifications, a lot of stuff. And so GDPR was just one of them that just was added.
What role has Microsoft played in your journey? Like, as a ISV, what's your level of engagement with Microsoft? Do you generate business from Microsoft? What are the kind of key tools that you use in your business in relationship to Microsoft? For example, things like AppSource.
It's a very good question. So Microsoft is a very big company and they have a lot of programs, too many, probably. So we do everything. So we bet 100% on Microsoft, and that means we have a big team, and I'm also responsible for that team worldwide. And they engage with Microsoft in all the ways, meaning marketing, product development, but also sales, and also all these programs. So AppSource is one of them. So we were one of the first ISVs that came with next best action at that time on AppSource, where we had the first trial environments, the click, try, buy stuff, etc. That today is much easier. Also, the onboarding of a new app is much easier. And that grew now to the ISV Connect program, in which you can select whether you go for a 0% that you pay Microsoft for selling your app, up to 10%, up to 20%.
Yes.
So, and we experienced now to be the number one in the world, this 20% ISV tier that generated in the last fiscal that just finished most of the opportunities with Microsoft, doubled the number two in the world. So we were very active there, and we paid Microsoft a lot of money based on this 20% of the deals based on the IP that was registered in the ISV Connect program. So but it's only one of the programs. There are many others.
So when it comes to sales and marketing within your business, if I was to give you €5 million, where would you be spending that from a sales and marketing perspective?
LinkedIn is one of the big bets. It really works, because as an ISV, you want to target a country, but also an industry, and also a level of kind of what type of person you want to engage with to sell your solution to. So LinkedIn is a big thing that works. We pay a lot of money to that.
Okay.
Then we do a lot of webinars. So we also pay linked to the LinkedIn investments to get the people aware about the webinars. Then, of course, you need content. So you need to pay some money to companies that are able to produce the right content. And we do this together with industry-specific channels as well. So like we recently did webinars together with Gartner. We wrote articles together with EFMA. So industry-specific channels that are known in that industry that can help as well. We now do go-to-market together with Microsoft in Dublin for the small and medium and corporate business. That also worked quite well. The last month we had, for one product, for one country, we had in 2 weeks 62 opportunities, just to give you some numbers. So if you know what to sell and how to sell it and who is buying, and so you need to have all these questions like the standard marketing stuff. But if this is all done, then you can use a lot of online tools and Microsoft telesales to help you drive new opportunities.
Wow. Okay, so one area you didn't mention then was the Microsoft partner ecosystem around the world. What's your experience with selling through other partners globally?
Yeah, good question as well. So yes, we have something like 100 partners in the Microsoft ecosystem. So going from global system integrators like PwC, Atos, DXC, IBM, Accenture, etc., up to local system integrators that only do a few countries or one country, but it depends on how complex your ISV solution is and how much volume you do in the same local territory per year on how to approach this. Our experience now is that it works best if you have a complex solution like we have, or we have many solutions, let's say. It works best if you have a bigger partner that can create a competence center that you can train the competence center on, and that this team sticks together and can help the other countries of the partner to implement it multiple times. Because otherwise they have to invest so much time in the learnings that they cannot reuse it so many times, and then we still do most of the work ourselves. But in let's say lead generation plays a big role there, because once they know your solution, they can position it. So we train the partners where we can on understanding our solutions, the fits in the market, so that they can realize where to position us. And then like this week, we had a partner from one of the big ones. They just came to us. They said, yeah, we positioned your solution. You're now in the short list. And so it brings opportunities to us, but it brings also implementation capacity. But it brings as well the trust that some banks or insurance companies want on the local level. They bring, let's say, the language barrier to a lower level, not to zero, but it helps. Our solution exists in a few languages, but not in all the languages that exist in the world. And culture is also important. Sometimes they just want to do business with local partners, and then, not with a VeriPark who is based in 15 countries in the world, but that's it.
So from a transaction point of view, when you're dealing with a global market, you're also dealing with global currencies. And, sometimes, as you say, the local company wants to deal with a local business or supplier and deal in their own currency. Is there anything you do specifically? Do you only, for example, transact in USD or Euro, or what's your model there? If it's a partner involved, do you invoice partner, or do you go direct to the customer? What have you found works for you?
What works is to be flexible. So we accept almost all the solutions. We are priming where it's needed. We are subcontracting where it's needed. Sometimes it's also MCS, Microsoft Consulting Services, that primes. So it's also a big partner for us. And MCS also has a way to, let's say, to handle in some difficult countries where it's very difficult to get your money out of the country. They have solutions to fix this, while we can't get money out of some countries. So that's one of the things. And then currency-wise, we have price lists in different currencies. We have to cover, let's say, all time zones, taking into account that in Africa you do business in a different way than you do in Europe, for example. Yep.
Interesting. So the other thing I have around time zones, and this is in my experience being in the Southern Hemisphere working with European companies, is when it comes to support, particularly outside the local country who's, supplying the ISV solution, when they go, our office hours are this to this in our time zone, and it's, almost at the total opposite time zone, to Australia or New Zealand or something like that. How do you handle kind of, supportability in foreign markets?
Well, it's a difficult point if you do not have the size that we have in the meantime. So, because you cannot do 24/7 support with 2 persons. So you need at least a team of 7 people to do this in a decent way. Well, we have a few customers paying us now for 7/7, 24/24 support. And once you have this team, of course, they're always open, let's say. So now it's easy to add more customers to that. But before that, we had more issues in time zone wise on the pre-sale side. Because if you have to do architecture review stuff that is quite complex, you're always betting on the same people. And you can ask them to stay up for one night or two, but not 2 weeks or 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So we had more issues on the pre-sale side than we had on the support side to become a global player.
Yeah. Before you mentioned your dependencies with Microsoft, and you're talking about Office 365, Microsoft 365, Azure, Dynamics, or the Power Platform, are you starting to use things like Power Apps and the Power Platform and things like Power Automate? These type of things, are they coming in onto your landscape and part of your solutions now?
Yes, but step by step. It's still, I mean, we need to have our own IP. So we will not, let's say, push just a Power Platform to a new prospect without selling our own IP on top of it. So we look at it in a different way than a system integrator, and in a different way than some SSPs or Microsoft sellers, let's say. So we always push for a business solution together with the Power Platform, and then of course we will show them how to build a new app or how to use the new things that you can do with I mean every week there is something new, or every release there is something new. Well, we mainly look into our own solutions, how we can use the new functions and features and the power of the platform, let's say, to make our platform stronger.
So particularly in this area, common questions I get from startup ISVs is one, if you're using solution files, etc., how do you protect your intellectual property? How do you manage things like licensing or additional users being added to the platform, and that you can account for those? Have you kind of set up your own licensing engine in Azure to handle that, or is anything you rely on Microsoft for in that respect? How do you kind of handle one, that licensing piece, and one, the protection of your intellectual property?
Very good question. Also questions that we discussed long time internally. So yes, it is very difficult to protect your IP with the Microsoft's CRM solution or customer engagements. So what we do is, we have a lot of .NET code that we compile, and we don't give away the source code. We just give the compiled code. So of course you can try to re-engineer it, let's say. But so in the end user license agreement, we have added some pieces to protect us. So in a way, if you start the software, you agree that you're not going to do re-engineering, and in the partnership program as well, we sign this with our partners that they do not do this. So it's a legal protection, let's say. It's not a fully technical protection, but of course with the compiled code, you have to really want to break it if you want to break it. But then on the licenses part, we decided not to do it. So we don't use an Azure server with license schemas and keys and number of users. But we see in our log files what they're using. And so it's more like we see what they do and we can always start a discussion, but we are not blocking a customer if they add more users or if they use more modules. It's not that we have a technical blocking system, because sometimes this can also be very annoying and very tough, especially in the industry that we are in banks and insurance companies. You better not block them using your solution, but you just want to have proof that they need to pay more.
Yes.
So that's how we see it.
From a customer success, onboarding, all those type of things, what do you do to make sure, there's a couple of questions I have here, I suppose. One is, what is the onboarding life cycle for you? What does that look like for a new customer? And even perhaps pre that, what's your sales timeframes? Like, does it take a year to sell your product? Is it a 6-month from, lead to cash, if you like, from you implementing or selling a solution? Just gives me some type of reference as to the size of what you're doing.
Well, it depends. If it's a bank that knows exactly what they want, and if that means that they are mature enough on CRM so that they know what's the difference between sales, marketing, service, whether they have a contact center or not, they know the terminology, they have been using a homemade product or Siebel or something else before, then the sales can be done in a few months. And the implementation depends on how much they want to use out of the box. We have customers, for example, in Nigeria with 4,000 users that we were able to implement from installation up to production in 3 months. But other customers, they think they're different and they want to make the difference with other colleagues, and they want to change the processes and the screens, and they are very picky on what they want, and then it can take up to a year for an implementation, depending again on the scope and the phasing, whether it's agile or waterfall. The approach as well is going to play a role. Sometimes we have customers where we say, okay, let's start with just a 360 view of the customer. We do this in 2-3 months, and then we do phase 2, which is this process, maybe sales, marketing, and then another one is the call center, contact center, maybe a chatbot. So it's typically a phased implementation approach, and typically it never ends because there are so many modules, there's so much to add. We have a loyalty program, you can do so many things these days.
Yeah.
That typically, after 2-3 years, we are still implementing new things. That's how it goes. And sometimes, if the customer is not mature, it can take as well 1 year to let them figure out what they really want.
Who do you typically compete against? And I'm not meaning probably in the Microsoft ecosystem, but are there other players in the market that have banking solutions? In my experience in banking, often they're quite old or they're built on old technologies where, and what you're saying here, it sounds very up to speed with current trends in the market and what you're doing. So what do you typically come up against?
Well, Salesforce is one of the names that comes up a lot.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they had, let's say, I think 4 or 5 years ago, they started with a new initiative, which was called the Financial Cloud. So they added a few entities, a few fields, and let's say a touch of finance to their solution. And everybody went wild, and they thought that Salesforce had an out-of-the-box solution for banking.
Right.
And Salesforce is, of course, very well positioned in how to sell with a big show everything to a prospect. So they're quite well in that. And Microsoft only started 2 years ago with the same thing, like it's called in Microsoft the accelerator programs.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we built together with Microsoft this banking accelerator that you can download for free, which is also, our products are now based on that accelerator. So you can start with the accelerator and then install the rest. But so, Salesforce is there, but feature and function wise, we are much further down the roads. But they're not so bad in the first impressions. You need to scratch a bit the surface to see the difference.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting. I was in Australia at a time where Salesforce was in one of the major banks in Queensland, Australia, and they ran into data residency breaches from memory. That it was all publicized in the papers and whatnot. And in the end, the governing body put basically they're going to lose their banking license if they didn't get rid of Salesforce out of the business. And so, because the data residency at that time with Salesforce was sitting in San Francisco, and the laws in Australia required PII information to sit within the geography of the country. And so, it was a very big, high-profile case because the company lost, multi-millions of dollars, as you can imagine, in an implementation like this. I mean, Benioff had promised that the data centers would be in Australia when the pre-project starting, and of course, once the project was finished, they're still not in country. So I would have thought that, one of the things that Microsoft continues to do is grow their data center footprint, from a geography perspective. Is that kind of enabling your business and part of the story you tell with when it comes to PII and data residency?
Yes, it is, but it's going slower than we expected. But in some countries like Luxembourg, Switzerland, you don't have to go to New Zealand to experience this, but people also need to keep the data in the country. So there are some solutions where you can do a hybrid solution that you keep some parts on premise and the rest with just encrypted stuff in the cloud, but still it's not the same. So the big advantage there is that you can still sell a subscription program with Microsoft solutions, but with the dual usage, right? You can still install it on premise.
Yep, that's right.
So that's the big differentiator to Salesforce. We still have that card to play, but yeah, we see that they are adding new data centers, and then it's not just a data center. You have to wait till all the services are installed in the data center that you want. So it's another 2 years typically before you have everything that you need, up to machine learning and everything. But yeah, step by step, it's going in that direction.
No, very good, very good. Any advice, or actually, I might ask it this slightly differently. If you were starting an ISV today and you're going to use, the same technologies that you're using from Microsoft, what are kind of some key things that you would want to get in play quickly in the first 6 months of starting your ISV to set it up for its best success?
You have to come up with a good strategy and make some choices. You cannot do everything. So start with picking an industry. Industry is becoming more and more important. And in Microsoft, in the new fiscal that starts now, this will be one of the key new elements. They are hiring a lot of industry people, and these people will steer the ISVs in the right direction. If you pick your industry, pick one that you know what the industry is like. Don't start in something where you have never been in, or you need to hire new people that are living in this industry. So you need industry knowledge. Then, of course, look at what is already out there. Don't try to compete. There is a lot of open space that Microsoft is looking for partners with solutions. So talk to Microsoft so that you find your place in the market where you see that your solution will fit. And then don't make an overcomplicated product that is able to be sold through other partners, through app source, through other channels. That would be my advice. So scale fast, fail fast.
I like it. Well, that's about all we've got time for today. It's been very interesting. You've obviously got a wealth of wisdom in the space. I always like to wrap up the show with a few just random questions. They're not about business necessarily, more about you and your life. Are you ready for the questions?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, before I ask you the question, just think about, I'm going to ask you at the end of this, who do you recommend as a guest for the show in future? So maybe another ISV or somebody that you know at another ISV that you think would be a good, person to come on and similar to this, really find out about their journey in the ISV ecosystem. But here's your question. Number one, if you could pick up a skill instantly, what would it be?
A skill, professional.
Yeah. Instantly, you could be the best at it in the world. What would it be?
To be professional.
Nice. Okay. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Focus.
Interesting. Would you rather never read another book or never watch another movie?
Never watch another movie.
Okay. So do you read a lot, do you?
I buy a lot because then I think I buy knowledge, but I don't read everything.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. What is something you think everyone should do at least once in their lives?
Travel to a place where they have never been and explore the world.
I like it. What's your dream job if money didn't matter?
A job where you have a good feeling at the end of the day.
And last question, what activity do you enjoy so much that it makes you lose track of time?
I'm a bit work alcoholic, let's say. So I like to work, but I also like my private life, going out for dinners, parties.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Wim, it's been great having you on the show. Is there a guest that you could think of for a future show?
Well, there is a Belgian company called Tribes.
Tribes, yep.
Tribes. And I think it's a nice example of a young ISV company that started 4 or 5 years ago and how they're now going with their ISV solution to go global. Yeah, I can put you in contact with them.
Excellent. That would be fantastic. It's been great having you on the show. If people want to connect with you online, is there any particular website they should go to, social media, anything like that?
The easiest is LinkedIn, Wim Geukens. You find my email, my phone, everything is there.
Hey, thanks again for joining us today on the Power Platform Show. Full show notes for this episode can be found at nz365guy.com/222. I'm your host, Business Applications MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you would like to see me interview a specific guest within industry, whether they be implementation partners, customers, anybody from within the community that's working with the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 that you think have got a story to tell, I'd love to have them on the show. Reach out to me. LinkedIn is the best way to get hold of me. Just send me a private message there and we'll see what we can do. Bye for now.